I'm delighted today to have Dan Kelly, who is a former state senator, our former state senator from Washington County, and whom we're going to find out what he's involved in now, and of course a circuit judge as well after retirement from the Senate. So you'll have to straighten all that out for me, Dan.
Okay.
So, and for the listening audience. But first of all, first and foremost, it's important to mention that you are from Washington County. I'm not sure you were born here.
I was born here 5 generations back,
Okay.
all from Washington County. But my father was in the National Guard that was activated to Korea in January of 1952. And he stayed in the military, and so I was raised in the military and just came home to Springfield occasionally to visit family. And then when I served my military and got out, I went to law school and moved back to Springfield. So I'm both from here and had to move back here after that military
You were
experience.
born here then?
We were born here, yes.
Okay. I was thinking all of you and all your siblings?
Well, no, my youngest brother was born in Germany and another in Oklahoma. You know, that military life
Right.
living all over us.
Right, right.
But my older sister were born here in Springfield,
Okay.
Washington County.
Sue, whom I've had the privilege to interview on this show
Yeah.
about her book.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Rebecca Boone.
Right.
So, yeah. And your father, whom I've interviewed on Channel 6 as well, Colonel Arthur Kelly, who has written
2 books.
2 books
Mhm.
and served in the military all his life.
He graduated from Washington County High School and was drafted right into the Army and served in the Pacific Theater during World War II. Also went to Korea at that time. Came back here and helped to start the National Guard unit. And I remember being with him once, and one of the other fellows he talked into joining the unit, and he goes, "Yeah, and 6 months later we were off to Korea. Thanks, Arthur." And he told me the story of those guys arriving in Korea with 40 degrees below zero and freezing to death, and off they went halfway around the world to, fight for a principle of liberty and freedom from communism, and did a wonderful thing for the Korean people. I guess you know my wife and I just recently served an 18-month mission with our church in Korea. And to see the culture that they built there in Korea is phenomenal and amazing, because young men, farm boys from Washington County, just did what their country asked and went over there and sacrificed and fought that they would not be overrun by the communists. And you look at communist North Korea now, one of the worst in the world, and South Korea. Most people don't realize it, but South Korea has this amazing culture and economy that they've built. The highest per capita percentage of people with post-baccalaureate degrees. They've educated themselves. The largest shipbuilder in the world. They're manufacturing electronics like LG and Samsung in their cars that people want to buy all over the world. Fastest internet in the world. It's just this amazing, sophisticated, beautiful culture that they built over there. All the people so kind and respectful, and it's a gleaming, beautiful city. So
Yeah.
it's quite the contrast of what has happened in Korea, because young men from Washington County and all over the nation were willing to make that sacrifice.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you to you, Arthur Kelly, and to all of the servicemen and women who participated in that war and every other war.
Right. Yeah, my father also served, went on to serve as a battalion commander in Vietnam while we moved back here. That's one really fun experience for us, is while my dad was in Vietnam in 1966, we all moved back to our little Springfield and got to see what it was like to live in a small town and have people actually know who you were. And it was very
Quite,
nice.
yeah. Well, you must have enjoyed it, because then you came back after that.
Well, let me tell you, when I was finishing my 4-year active duty term, and I had to decide if I was getting out or staying in.
And that was with the Army?
Yes.
Okay.
I was at Fort Knox, and this is real funny. I had to decide whether I was going to stay in the Army and make it a career like my dad, or get out and do something else. So I called personnel and I said, if I stay in, what will be my next duty assignment? And they typed on something a little bit, and they said, "You're going to go to Korea unaccompanied." And I had just married, and my wife was 5 months pregnant, and I was like, I think I'll do something else. So I went to law school on the GI Bill, and my Uncle John, who had the law practice here, wanted one of us to come down and help him with his law practice. I really went to law school not because I wanted to be a lawyer, but I wanted to have some way to make a living and live here, someplace where I could raise my kids in a small town, and they would have the roots and stability that I had seen when I was back here, and saw all these folks that had friends from grade school and how neat that was. And so we did that, and boy, we really are glad we did. Darlene loves living here, has so many friends, and our kids all had a wonderful experience and loved Springfield. So
yeah,
that was a good thing for us.
Yeah. Well, you met Darlene when you were at Fort Knox.
That's right. Yeah, we met at church, and she was.
She was from Hardin County.
She's from Hardin County. Yeah, a little town called Upton.
Yeah.
Hadn't been much out of the country, and we married, and we raised 5 children. We have 13 grandchildren now,
and your clan's growing and growing.
Yes.
Well, and I got the opportunity to, of course, see some of them at your sister Chris's wedding recently, and so that was a real pleasure to. And of course, I got to see Darlene, and I guess really I hadn't hardly seen her since you all did get back from your mission trip.
Right. Yes.
And and I want to touch base about that, and I got to see Ollie, who's was my daughter's age, and lives in Louisville now, I think, and married, and 2 children.
That's right. 3 children.
3.
Yes.
Okay. One of them
3
wasn't
girls.
there.
They were all there.
Was the baby there?
It wasn't a baby. Adelaide's about 4 years old now. She's
the one that
preschool.
danced all night?
Oh, they all danced all night. Wasn't it sweet?
Remember
her dad was dancing with her. And
right. Okay,
yeah,
that's the youngest one.
That was
okay,
Adelaide, yeah.
Okay. So, then Lewis,
Right.
who was there, who lives in northern Kentucky.
Yeah, Lewis is my son who, as he was growing up in a little small town in Washington County, he said, "I can't wait to get out of here. I want to get as far away from here as I possibly can." And then he'd call me up and say, "Dad, I've been thinking, Chicago, it's only 5 hours away. I might go to Chicago." And then he'd call and said, "Cincinnati, it's only a couple hours away." And then I really liked when I lived in Lexington at UK. Maybe I'll go to Lexington. Then he called me up and said, "Dad, got any room in your law practice for me?"
Because he's an attorney, too.
He is, yes.
And now he's running for Commonwealth Attorney.
Commonwealth Attorney in northern Kentucky, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got involved in politics with me when I ran for county attorney, you might remember. And
yeah.
we went to the north of the county and visited 4,000 households in Washington County, just worked our way from the north down. And he was the one who would go, and he'd take the little voter list, and we'd pull up to the house, and he'd tell me who it was and their voting history, and we would get out and knock on doors. And so
I'm glad he got the bug that we need these young people to go into politics. It has such a dirty connotation, it seems now, Dan. But honestly, you served in the
Senate, right?
In the Senate, but prior to that, I was thinking,
I was
did you
city
serve?
attorney
You were city attorney
for 8 years,
right?
Which was a wonderful experience and really gave me a lot of preparation for going to Frankfort. When I first moved back here, Washington County had a lot of problems. Our water reservoir was inadequate. They were having to ration water whenever there was any kind of little drought. And our water plant was not in good shape, and our sewer plant was polluting the water, and we were under a EPA order, no new hookups, no new housing or industry could locate here. And Dwight Wright was elected mayor, and he hired me as the city attorney, and he had a solution to the water. He was going to go out to Willisburg, bring in a water line, and then take, in exchange for the Willisburg providing the water, take city-treated water back out to Mackville and into Willisburg. At that time, Washington County was one of 3 counties in the state that didn't have county-wide water distribution. And so Dwight implemented that. I went out and walked up and down the road getting people to sign their easements that they had to do. And then we accomplished that. And so when I went to Frankfurt, Governor Patton, he wanted to do the same thing. He wanted to get more water to people in Kentucky. And I said, well, I want to write that bill and I want to sponsor that bill. And we did that. And we developed a planning process that was...
And Dan, you were a Republican senator.
Yeah.
And Governor Patton was a Democratic governor.
Yeah.
So just goes to show you how those Republicans and
You
Democrats can work together.
Yeah, we did. And Paul Patton was a guy who could do that. You know,
Yeah.
he was a great executive leader. And so we developed a program that was regionalized, where instead of every city and county trying to take care of its own problems, they worked together in a regional aspect. Where should we build the water supply? Where should the distribution lines go? Where's the treatment should that happen? And in 5 years, Kentucky went from one of the worst states as far as safe drinking water for its residents to the second or third highest. And
That's quite an accomplishment.
It happened here in Washington
County. Started
too.
right here in Washington County.
We got 98% of the county, with access to safe drinking water.
Yeah.
And so that came from my experience as city attorney.
Yeah. I think Mike Haydon helped on that too.
He had quite a bit to do with that. That's right. He and I worked together. Dwight Wright would wear us out. Every morning we met down in the store, and he'd say, all right, what are you doing? And we'd report, and he'd go, now I want you to go do this. And we never finished one project before he had another one. But that was a fun experience.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you all did the Main Street renovation.
Parks improvements. Sewer improvements.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we did a lot of things that were necessary if your county's going to grow.
Yeah.
People don't even pay attention to the fact we have a 5,000-foot
The
runway.
industrial park started at that time?
There was no industrial land, but Dwight brought industrial land, and that brought in these industries we have here. We have that 5,000-foot runway out at the airport, which is the size you need for industrial clients to bring their customers in, and that's an important thing to get folks in here. And then, of course, we have the tech school, which is right in the industrial park. And the plan was that we would attract a industry that needed high-skilled workers, and we'd have the place to train them. And then, of course, the bottom fell out of the economy, and we're just now getting to the point where we're seeing some economic growth. And that's probably what will happen out there. We'll attract an industry that needs highly trained workers and train them right there in the industrial park.
Mm-hmm,
At least that's the goal.
Yeah. So those were all projects that you were involved in, either as city attorney, and of course later with your term in the Senate, which was for how, not a term, numerous terms.
It was 19 years, just
19
short of 20
years,
right?
Yeah. So that was really good to have you representing us, and then of course you were
circuit judge.
Circuit judge, appointed circuit judge, and then an
I had to stand for election. Yeah, it was unexpired term.
Unexpired.
Judge George, who retired early, and 5 years left remaining in his term. And so I was appointed, and then a year later you had to stand for election, but there was no opponent. So basically the appointment took me to be a circuit judge, which was a wonderful experience. I loved presiding as circuit judge more than any other public service that I've done. It was just a wonderful experience. One, you work with wonderful people, all the clerks and sheriffs and all the folks of probation and parole and jailers, all very professional, all working very hard, all trying to resolve disputes, protect the public, and see how we could solve all the problems that we face there. And every person that came before you as a judge was in trouble. Either they were charged with a crime, or their family was breaking up, or their business was breaking up. And you, with the other parties, attorneys and prosecutors and so forth, had to figure out what's a solution that's fair and just for everybody. And when you could, at the end of the day, feel like, well, we did some good today, it really was a very, very rewarding and enjoyable experience. And I'll just tell you one little funny story. As we were approaching the end of that term, and I had to decide whether or not I was going to retire or run for re-election, Darlene and I had been planning on going to mission for some time.
That was a 6-year term.
It was 5 years.
5, and then you are, okay.
It would have been, if I ran, it would have been another 8.
Okay.
I was filling
Okay.
off the last 5 years of unexpired term.
Okay, right.
And I
Okay.
said, Darlene, I said, I really enjoy this work. I could do this for a long time. She put her pencil down and she said, oh no, I supported you in your military career, law school, your legal career, your political career, and your judicial career. It's my turn. You're retiring. We're going on a mission.
And you did.
And we did.
A long one.
And I'm so glad we did.
Yeah.
Because you have to go when you have your health
Yeah.
and mobility. And, you know, when you start getting my age, you realize that that's limited. You know, it doesn't last forever.
Right.
And,
unfortunately, I'm beginning to recognize that as well.
Yeah. So we retired effective December 31st in 2014, and in March we were halfway around the world in Seoul, Korea, and it was the most wonderful experience. You know, really, the two of us, it brought us even closer because you only have each other, you know, and
Yeah.
and it was very focused, just the two of us working together in a faraway place that was so beautiful and wonderful. And we had the modern technology of, you know, FaceTime, and you could see your family back home and maintain contact. And we even had 5 of our grandchildren and 2 of our children come to visit us while we were there.
Oh, I don't know, think I knew that.
Yeah, so they had a,
Yeah.
you know, that was something for them to come
Right.
halfway around the world and see that culture and
Yeah.
have that experience.
Did you stay at a mission church or?
No, we
You-
just lived in an apartment on the economy that was about 20-minute walk from the office that we worked out of, and
Mhm.
we lived in the oldest part of Seoul, right in the heart of it. Seoul is a city of 25 million people,
Unbelievable.
and it's just amazingly beautiful and ultra modern because everything was destroyed in the Korean War, just leveled. And in 1980, there was one tall building in downtown Seoul. But then their economy just took off. They call it the Miracle on the Han. And now it's just this beautiful, gleaming, modern city with modern public transportation and just wonderful. But we live right where the Chosun Palace is. It's almost like living near the Forbidden City in Beijing. And it was the old part, because they'd preserved all the old style housing, you know, around that. And taxi drivers would take us back there sometime. They'd say, how do you like your little villagey? Because it was just this quaint little village. We felt like we were back in Springfield. It was so
Yeah.
nice. And right there in the middle, that huge megapolis.
Do the people there speak English?
Yes. Highly educated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you didn't have to look far to find someone who could speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And really friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazingly. They feel a duty. So many foreigners came to Korea and helped them rebuild their country, including a lot of missionaries from churches all over the United States, you know, who came there to help them, that they're very kind and respectful to missionaries. And one of the things I would do is when new senior missionaries like us would come to Seoul, I would go and teach them how to get around on the public transportation. And I tell them, you don't have to worry about being lost, because they'll see the perplexed look on your face and they'll walk up and say, may I assist you? And they won't leave you until you've gotten to where you know where you are again. They'll stop what they're
Wow.
doing and take you where you're going. And we were just amazed at how polite and kind all the people were over there.
What did you do? What was your role in the mission work?
We were what they call office couple, and you have all these missionaries. There's 200 missionaries in an area that went from north from Seoul to the DMZ and then to the coast. And so they were in about 64 houses all over Seoul and all over the northern part of South Korea. And we were just there, and they'd come into the headquarters and arrive. We'd give them a little training on how to take care of themselves and where their housing was and how to transportation and all that. And off they'd go. And then they'd be in and out for training and other things, and then they'd leave. And watching them come and go, you know, they served for 2 years. We were basically the resident grandparents to all these young college kids who were, you know, coming in there and baffled about being in this foreign country and culture, and then they would work for 2 years and they'd go home so sophisticated and speaking the language, and just it was marvelous.
And these were all Mormons,
Yes,
Dan?
yes.
Okay.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You've seen those guys with the little name tags and white shirts.
I went to Salt Lake City and went to the
temple.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was very rewarding to be associated with those young men and women, and watching them come and go and helping them. I took care of finances and the housing, to make sure that it was all in good shape. And Darlene kept the communications with home and. Just looked after them, and everybody fell in love with Darlene. Of course, she's a wonderful grandmother.
Oh yes, and I know she's happy to be back home with those grandchildren.
She is, yes.
And of course, Josiah,
our oldest son,
your oldest, and his wife
Denise, right, and their 6 children.
6 children. Okay, 6, right. I've met them. But I can't keep them all straight.
Yeah.
But I think you all have really enjoyed having them here.
Yeah, I love music, and they're all musically very talented. And so I've got a little grandkid band going now. Their oldest son, Isaiah, plays the fiddle, and just recently their 8-year-old son, Sam, is playing the fiddle, and we have their oldest daughter's playing bass, and another playing ukulele, and they all sing and harmonize. We'll be playing on the streets here for the Sorghum
Festival.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
We did that at the Ham Days Festival too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, of course, I've gotten the opportunity to hear you and your granddaughter. She sang beautifully at Chris's wedding,
right.
And then some of you played for Sister Claire at New Pioneers at their dinner over at County Seat.
Right.
And I think that was how many kids were there at that?
There was 3 of the kids and myself.
Yeah.
And they were just starting.
Yeah.
And they're doing really, really well now. They're really progressing as a little.
And what are their names?
Well, Isaiah is the oldest who plays the fiddle, and Sarah is the oldest girl who plays the bass, and then Abby, who sings marvelously and plays the ukulele, and then little Sam is now playing the fiddle. You can see him on Facebook and
on Facebook.
Yeah.
On what? On.
You can see us playing over at Ham Days and some other experiences where the kids are playing their music.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then did the 2 smaller ones wouldn't be?
One other, Abram, plays a little drums. It's not a drum set. They call it a cajon. It's a little thing you can beat on and get a percussion.
So you are the ones who have taught them music, Dan?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I've sort of encouraged them, and they have voice instructor Shantina Phillips, who's working out at St. Catherine's College, and I'll just give her a plug. She's the best voice coach I've ever seen, and you can go out to St. Catherine's College, and she'll meet you there, and works with kids who want to improve their singing.
I guess she's giving lessons over at the
yes.
Mother House,
that's
at the
right.
part they
that's
still
right.
own.
Yes, yeah. She's working with Teresa out there, and they, you can take piano lessons from Teresa, and you can take voice lessons from Shantina, and it is high quality instruction, and it's really nice to have that available here in Washington County.
Yeah, I know. We're very fortunate. I've been speaking about that all day today. Some of the wonderful things that we have here, and been lucky to
the
have.
community theater here, which is first rate and really wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. And our Mid-Kentucky Arts of the chorus, and then I was talking with Dennis Morganson a little while. We're one of just a few counties in the state, one of 30 counties that have a position, the horticulturist, or whatever he is. I'm not exactly sure, something to that effect. But he does a wonderful job, an educator, and so anyway, we've got a lot of, and for us having KCTC, which was a real coup to our county, and you of course were instrumental in that, and I get a lot of people who who made comments all the time. How did Washington County get that? I said, because we know people in powerful places.
The county is really well poised now with our water plant in great shape, lots of capacity, our sewer plant's in great shape with plenty of capacity. Excellent people out there at the water company running those two things. Nobody pays attention to that.
Yeah.
But having that is quite an asset. And the airport and the school, the KCTCS school out there that can train people, and the nice industrial park that we have available. There's been a little hiatus in development in Kentucky, but I think as the economy is starting to pick up now, you're going to see more investment here, and this community is really poised and ready with all the nice attractions, brand new high school, the nice community theater here, and then this
great park, our park.
It is a great park.
Yeah.
For any community, and particularly such a small community.
That's right. Yeah. So, and Dan, you've done a lot of good things for Springfield and Washington County, and we appreciate that.
It's nice for you to say that.
And all those years that you served in the Senate and as city administrator, city attorney, and then and I wanted to ask you now, because at one point when I talked with you after you came back from your mission trip, I wasn't sure you were ever going to practice law again. I thought all those years of law Dan's been in this, our circuit judge. Now he's telling me he's not sure he might even go back to law, but I think maybe you didn't say that.
No, I really enjoyed my legal career. I don't know why, but when I started, I said to myself, I'm going to do 20 years and that's it. Ended up doing 30.
Yeah.
And there comes a time when you need to retire as a lawyer. It's a very high-stress work, and you have to stay right on top of the latest of what's happening if you're going to serve your clients well. And it's somewhat, confrontational, because you have to support your side, and there's two different sides. And I had just reached the point where I didn't want to do another divorce or an argument between landowners on where the property line was. And I enjoyed the career. It was a great way to live in this community and be able to raise and educate our kids. But I'm leaving it to the younger guys now to do that work. Yeah. And I am doing some special judge work where if they have a judge that's sick or that dies unexpectedly or have conflicts of interest or some problem like that, I go in and try to solve that problem and provide a little assistance there. And that's
you act as judge in that respect?
Right. Yeah, I can slip in and act as judge when there's a temporary emergency or problem. And I do that occasionally, not all the time. And I enjoy it. It's fun to do that.
I don't know, some people probably don't even realize just, it takes a judge quite a while to make a decision on a case. There's so much case law and there's so many decisions and so many laws that you have to know all of those things, and I guess you have you're having to research things all the time, and it's not just coming in the courtroom and doing hitting the gavel and making.
I don't know. That's what I tried to do, and I was just talking to my dad about that today. My preparation in the military really prepared me to be a judge, because one thing you have to do in the military is you have to make decisions, and you have to make them quick, and you have to give orders, and you have to, and so I found that to be easier than for some people, and that one of the reasons why I really enjoyed the work.
Yeah. Well, now, well, of course, you were making laws all the time when you were in the Senate.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to serve in the executive branch, in the legislative branch, in the judicial branch, and it has given me such an appreciation for how wonderful our system of government is in this country. That's often overlooked. Most people don't know who their judges are or what they do, and that's good. Because, like I say, if you're in front of the judge, it's not good. People don't like our legislature. They're so upset, but it was designed to be a fairly contentious process. It's difficult to do things because we don't want to be changing our law just willy-nilly. You want stability. You want the law to be there and hard to change. And so it's a difficult process. And then having a strong executive is very important so they can make decisions and get things done. Dwight Wright lost his election after 8 years. And my young son Lewis came to me and said, "Dad, if Dwight did so many good things, getting the water supply and taking water out into the county, improving the park, buying the industrial land," he said, "how did he lose the election?" And I said, "Well, Lewis, it's when you do things that you make people upset, because some people don't like it." And he said that stuck with him for a long time. And that's what happens when you have an executive who's out there making decisions and doing things, and some people like it,
some people don't.
But we have a wonderful, wonderful system of government. Lots of problems because it's people, humans, who are running it. But if you just go around the world and you see the freedom and the stability and the opportunity that we have in this country, you really appreciate how amazing it is that it works.
Yeah.
With us running it.
Yeah. That's what's so remarkable.
That's what's really just amazing to me.
Yeah. Well, so I'd like to ask you, well, first of all, I want to mention your mother, who's been long deceased.
Yes.
And I know your father is, of course, still with us, and we're delighted about that.
92 years old.
92.
Yes, I just had lunch with him just a little while ago.
And so, well, good. And then your mom was...
My mother was Ollie Lee Hayes,
Yeah.
out in the Mooresville area of Washington County. Hayes Farm has been there since the Revolutionary War. The Hayes came in and were there, and my mom met my dad and married, and then off she goes to this military career. She was valedictorian of her class at UK in home economics and was working for Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati, and probably would have been quite an
she would have been
success.
An executive. Yeah.
Yeah. And married this little farm boy who, had been off to the war and went into a life of military dependent and had to work so hard while we were in Germany. He was out in the field all the time, and him being in Vietnam and the separation, was really, really difficult for her. But she was a wonderful companion and mother, and she died when she was 46 at Fort Knox, and I was there. I had the unique experience of going into the Army in San Antonio, Texas, being trained, and my first duty assignment was Fort Knox, Kentucky, where my dad and mom were stationed. So I'm the only person that joined the Army and went home.
Yeah, that's right.
Was able to be with my mother before her death, and I really treasure that.
Yeah.
And then, ended up back here in little Springfield, Washington. And let me tell you one other story.
Okay.
I would go around running for office for Senate, and I'd meet people out there in Bloomfield area, out where she went to school, and they would say, "You're Ollie Hayes' boy." "Oh, I loved your mother," they would say.
Aww.
It was a very visceral reaction.
Oh, wow.
And they remembered her and how much fun she was and what a good person she was, and that was kind of cool.
But that's special, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To have that opportunity, and so, and then because you have five siblings?
There's 4 siblings.
Four
There's 5
siblings.
of us.
5 of us total. Yeah. Okay. So then, and they live close by, I think, or at least Krista's here.
Sue married Jimmy Ballard.
And so she's close by. She's in Elizabethtown, yeah.
But they lived here at the park when Jimmy was the superintendent of the park. And my sister Krista has moved back here, yes.
Yeah. So everybody's coming home.
That's right.
And and then your sister
Debbie is in Alabama, where her husband works for NASA.
Oh, okay. She wasn't able to be here for the wedding, I know.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So so she is a little bit distant. Who knows? She'll probably get back to this area at some point.
Yeah, we see her pretty regular. It's a 5-hour drive.
Yeah. And your brother?
My brother is in North Carolina.
Okay. What's his name?
Steve.
Steve. Okay. Yeah. So, but anyway, it's good that it's good that you're home, and that you're getting this next generation prepared, and I'm looking forward to hearing you all sing this weekend, and
Good. Hope we get a chance to do that.
yeah, and so and who knows what you'll be into in the future. And I have to ask you one question though. What would you say was? I know you talked about your career as the you enjoyed most was being the circuit judge. But tell me one thing in all of your career that you found to be a highlight of your...
Well, I mentioned the water. That was important to me, that safe drinking water in this county and in this state. That was fun to be able to do that. A little bit of a history to it. My ancestor that came here from Ireland, Dan Kelly, born on the ship, whose name was my namesake, he had 8 children and 5 of them died from cholera in an 18-month period. And when I think about that, just how awful.
My gosh.
And of course, cholera comes from having bad hygiene in your water supply. People didn't even know in those days. So it just made me feel good that we were addressing that issue for all the people of Kentucky. But another really big thing was I did some work, again, Paul Patton and I kind of relied on this, and it's intervention for struggling readers. And we created this collaborative center for literacy development that trains highly skilled literacy interventionists who go out all over the state and work with kids who might otherwise not learn how to read. And with this, if they're diagnosed early and you have this special intervention, within a short time they're reading at grade level and have the opportunity for a successful education. And that was really a fun experience to be able to make that happen.
And what is the name of that? Is that
Reading Recovery.
Reading Recovery? Yeah.
Yeah, and we have it here in Washington County. In fact,
yeah.
it had already started in Washington County, and that was part of the, I saw that and said, well, we need that all over the state.
Yeah.
And now we have it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you, Dan, for everything. And I look forward to seeing what you're going to be involved in next.
Okay, good to see you again.
Thanks.